Hi friends, a while ago I shared with you a video about some of my favourite opening lines of books. You guys really loved the video and it led to some conversations about the best closing lines in books. And while an opening line can set the tone and even be a little prophetic to what the book is going to contain, the closing line is a little bit of a different beast. This is the moment that will end your journey with these characters that you've spent a lot of time with, and it may be the thing that you remember the most. A closing line can leave you with an emotional response like sadness or peace or awe, or it can tie back to that central theme that the book has had and bring about a moment of clarity. Or a closing line can even echo back to the start of the book and really provide a bit of a closing loop, if you like. One of my most favourite books from 2025 so far is Rare Singles, and that had a beautiful ending to the book. I can't recall it exactly, and for the life of me I can't find the book. I think I've lent it to someone. But what I love so much about that ending was that it actually tied into another book by Benjamin Myers called The Offing. It was such a moment of peace for this character that you just felt, you just took a deep sigh at the end of it. So some closing lines are satisfying like that, others not so much, others are cliffhangers. But today I'm going to share with you some of my favourite closing lines from books. And I really hope that we have another fun discussion in the comments as you tell me if you agree with me or maybe share some of your favourite closing lines. And I am trying to be specific to a line, a sentence, but some cases it is the paragraph. The ending paragraph is just sublime. So let's kick it off with The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This book probably has an iconic opening line and finishing or closing sentence, and that is, "So we beat on, boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past." I love F. Scott Fitzgerald writing. I think it's some of my favourite writing, and I love reading The Great Gatsby. But this ending really creates that satisfying loop from the start of the book. It really has those elements of the theme of memory and a place like longing, time. All these things are elements within this book, and I think the ending sentence really is a perfect ending. My next favourite one is The House at Pooh Corner by A. Milne. This ending is just beautiful. "And so they went off together, but wherever they go and whatever happens to them on the way, in that enchanted place on the top of the forest, a little boy and his bear will always be playing." I mean, it's just so satisfying, and that ending just echoes the themes of friendship in there. You know that things are going to be okay. No matter what comes their way, Christopher Robin and Pooh have got each other, they've got a solid friendship, and they are going to be okay. It was such a beautiful ending to a perfect book. It's a beautiful little book. If you haven't read it, please do. Some very different themes within The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood, but the ending of this book is iconic. Are there any questions? And if you've read The Handmaid's Tale, yes, you have a lot of questions. I haven't read The Testaments, which is, I think, the sequel to this, but man, this was such a great little book. And talk about an ambiguous and open-ended ending, leaving us to interpret or imagine what might come next. And I feel like that ending, because it is written as though someone is telling you this story, and I feel like the ending of that makes it a lot more intimate. You remember that this is someone telling you their story, and I feel like it brings an intimacy. So that's a favourite. Another favourite is Cider with Rosie by Laurie Lee. The ending is beautiful for so many reasons. "It was then that I began to sit on my bed and stare out at the nibbling squirrels, and to make up poems from intense abstraction, hour after unmarked hour, imagination scarcely faltering once, rhythm hardly skipping a beat, while sisters called me, suns rose and fell, and the poems I made, which I never remembered, were the first and last of that time." There is a nostalgia that this ending leaves with you, because this is a memoir in the form of Laurie Lee telling you about his childhood. And the book ends as Laurie is emerging from childhood into adolescence. And his world is literally shifting as he goes from horses to cars, and their little village is becoming less communal and opening way for the modern times to come. And I think it's quietly profound and lyrical, and it really does bring a sense of closure to this narrative and a little bit of a bittersweet nostalgia for childhood that you can never get back. It's a beautifully poetic ending. Another one of my favourite endings is Ernest Hemingway's A Moveable Feast. Ernest Hemingway is just a master with words. I should read more of his books because the ones I have read I have enjoyed. But the ending to this, there's actually like a full paragraph, but just the last sentence. But this is how Paris was in the early days when we were very poor and very happy. And it's one of those closing lines that just encompasses the entire book in one sentence. These are Hemingway's memories of living in Paris in the 1920s, and they're really personal, and they're like, there's some famous single sentences that have come out of this book, and I feel like that is just the perfect ending to this little memoir, which is delightful. It is beautiful if you haven't read it, and the entire closing paragraph actually is about Paris and how Paris is always worth it to come back to. No matter how many things change in your life, Paris is always there, and this was a good one. That's a beautiful closing line. Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. This ending is just perfect. Closing line. God's in his heaven, all's right with the world, whispered Anne softly. I mean, it really does kind of sum up that innocence that Anne has, even though she's gone through quite a change towards the end of the book. She's had to deal with some harder things in this beautiful existence with the Cuthberts. I think it really encapsulates the innocence that Anne still has, but it's not a naivety anymore. And it's such a beautiful emotional connection that left me with such peace and happiness for Anne. Dusk by Robbie Arnott has one of the best endings, let alone, if you've read the book, so good. Iris let the sound of them wash over her like weak rain. She closed her eyes, she tasted the clean air, she summoned into her mind the endless light of Highland stars. Then she stepped to the side, lifted the latch, and ripped the cage door open. It's one of those endings which is emotionally satisfying, but also a little open-ended because it allows you as the reader to come up with what happens next. When I read it, it gave me such a rush of emotion, and I think it was the perfect ending to this. Please do try and get hold of this. It was one of my favourite books of last year. And I needed a book to round it out to an even 10, I think. The Hobbit by Tolkien, the final sentence. Thank goodness, said Bilbo laughing, and handed him the tobacco jar. Him being Gandalf. I loved it as a satisfying ending. He's there with Gandalf doing what he loves best in his cozy little abode. I think it's a perfect ending, especially because it does throw back to the story, where so many times in the story Bilbo is reminiscing on how lovely his pantry is and how warm and cozy his house is. And here he is back at the end of his incredible journey in his home with his friend doing what he loves best. I think it's a beautiful ending. So those are some of my favourite closing lines. There are millions out there. I probably could have added more to it, but I would love to hear what your favourite one is. Do you agree with any of mine here? It could be a favourite ending, the favourite paragraph, favourite closing line. What is it that has given you that satisfaction after you've read the book? Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will speak with you soon. Bye.